big plans that are ahead for the consecration ceremony in Ayodhya for the Ram Mandir Pran Pratistha. Now, in wake of this mega global ceremony that India is organizing, there is also global buzz around it. There is international media who's talking about it. There are billboards across the globe in UK, in London, in New York that hold these information telling the world about the Ayodhya Ram Mandir, a message from India to the globe. Now, amidst all these big developments, there are also certain other media organizations that are funded by certain political outfits who are trying to paint a different picture. But notwithstanding that, the larger message that goes out right now is that the world is looking up and taking notice. The world at this point of time is curious to know the symbol, the biggest, the largest, the most significant symbol of Hinduism that has become the star attraction across the world. And what is it that is going to happen in terms of India, in terms of Hinduism, in terms of Lord Ram and Ramayan becoming the symbols of the larger good, the peace, the good governance, the good administration that can then be followed by the world administrations, the world economies. Starting my conversation with the Master Basuti Mukherjee, quickly a response from you about the flurry of media articles. There are these reports on television, whether we talk about CNN or BBC, we talk about Al Jazeera, and I'm not interested in whether that is negative publicity or positive publicity. At the end of the day, this is an event that is happening on a global scale, and the world cannot afford to ignore it.
Well, you know, Megha, it reminds me of the time when India became a nuclear state, nuclear weapon state, and some of the world tried to ostracize us, but ultimately we came roaring back. Now, in this particular case, I read carefully the reviews that have come in from foreign media, and they have zeroed in on only what they perceive as two issues. One is that this entire episode shows deepening of religious fault lines in India, which I don't agree with. And the other, it seems to give the erroneous impression that there was something totally wrong in doing what we've done, which is to consecrate the birthplace of Lord Ram. So it shows actually a fundamental misunderstanding of the nature of Indian secularism, of what makes the nation state, of what is written in our constitution, and our interpretation of secularism, which is not at all like the way the French interpret laïcité, secularism in their country. So under those circumstances, you very correctly said that it's best not to be concerned what they write, but to make sure that they understand once ceremony is over on Monday, and I am traveling to Ayodhya tomorrow. I have been invited there and I'm very excited about it, is to understand that this is the culmination of a long process of neglect of Hinduism. Why? Because we had so many centuries of Muslim rule followed by British colonialism and a false Hindu left narrative which made Hindus feel that it is incorrect to discuss or focus on their religion or to say that they are practicing Hindus in case it makes minorities feel uncomfortable. My perception is in India, everybody is free to practice their religion. This event has been welcomed by Indians across India who are not necessarily Hindus and who understand the significance of the event, just as we would welcome Bodh Gaya or the Sikhs' holy place or the Vatican, etc., or the annual pilgrimage of Indian Muslims for Hajj. These are all normal issues in a religion. If others can do it, then what is wrong with our doing this? And moreover, we have several religious sites, but we were never allowed to give this site any importance because of the fact that for a long time it was locked in litigation. Now that it has opened up, I was overjoyed to see that one of the individuals who had actually litigated against it is very happy to join in the rituals tomorrow and day after,
Right.
which shows actually that what they are writing, that Muslims are very unhappy in India about it, is not true at all.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Professor Madhu Nalapad, the fact that the Hindus, for the first time in 500 years, are being able to build a symbol of their faith, and I'm going to bring in comparison what the Mecca and Medina stand for the Muslims, or with the Vatican and the revered site is for the Christians. We talk about Bethlehem, we talk about Jerusalem, and these are world-renowned sites. These are much acknowledged and recognized by the entire world for the faiths that they stand for the ethos of these religions that they stand for. Unfortunately, that such has not been the case when it comes to Hinduism or the faith of the Hindu community. And that's why a momentous occasion for the Ram Mandir to be constructed and this ceremony to happen on a global scale. Is this now an indication that the world is coming to terms with what Hinduism, which is amongst the most ancient religions of the world, stands for, and a global recognition being given to it?
Well, first of all, I'd like to agree completely with the ambassador that Lord Ram stands for all of humanity. And if I may also say, the reason, Megha, for this kind of negativity that the ambassador was very correctly pointing out is the fact that this event, basically, which is going to happen in less than 48 hours from now, this event is basically it's going to play out over that period, showcases the fact that India is a land where more than 6,000 years of recorded history. The fact is there's been an effort to contain India within, I would say, about 300 years, at best about 600, 700 years, and then the remainder of the history of India as myth. So this basically showcases the civilizational foundations of India that go back several thousands of years. Now, you'll say it's not only regarding the Ram Mandir. You're perfectly right, Megha. The Kashi, Mathura, and Ayodhya are the three sacred sites of the Hindus. A terrible wrong was done when all three were razed in 1660, if I remember, by Aurangzeb. That wrong has now been righted in the case of Ayodhya. But if everybody, every faith is entitled to their sacred sites, and these are the three sacred sites of the Hindus. Now, I'm not surprised at this kind of negative coverage. Look, for example, at the reaction to the Citizenship Amendment Act. That was misconstrued as an act that was going to affect the citizenship of minorities in India. Anybody who looks through Citizenship Amendment Act, and I'm sure many of those who wrote those vicious articles would have done that, will see it has absolutely zero impact on any citizen of India. It was actually a Minorities Protection Act designed to protect minorities in three countries, in two of which minorities have almost disappeared, and in one, the minority is on the way to disappearing. It is a Minorities Protection Act, but it was misconstrued as an action designed to target a specific community. Look at Uniform Civil Code. Now you have so many people, I regret to say many from India, writing negative things in foreign media about the effort to bring in a uniform civil code. And they're carried in newspapers in Germany, in Britain, in the US, in Canada. Which of those countries permits any citizen to have more than one wife? Which of them, Megha? Not one. They have a uniform civil code in their countries, but they say, oh my God, it's wrong to have a uniform civil code in India. Why? Are we frankly, are we children of a lesser God? If you go back to that particular phrase, of course not. Everybody has to be treated equally. And if I may say so, this kind of what you're seeing today is now making clear that India is a land of several thousand years of history. And I think that is something that some people cannot really stomach. Besides the fact that they find it difficult it's perfectly okay in Germany for there to be a Christian Democratic Party and a Christian Socialist Union running that country. It's perfectly okay for a US president or a UK prime minister to swear an oath on the Bible. But it's not right in India to basically celebrate the entirety of Indian history, which is what the Ram Temple is doing. I want to end by saying the minority community in India, especially the Muslims, they need to be congratulated for the way in which they have joined in the welcome of the Ram Mandir, because they understand that this opening is by no means a sectarian act. It's an act that basically unifies India, and Lord Ram is a unifying figure across humanity, not just in India.
Okay. All right. Pathakrit, quickly a view from you about the global sentiment of India as a country where all religions have not just existed, but they have thrived. Whether we talk about Hindus or Christians or Muslims, we talk about a very thriving Parsi community. There are Jews who have been living very harmoniously in India. We talk about Buddhism, that was the birthplace of Gautam Siddhartha. We talk about Jainism, we talk about Sikhism, and therefore a strong message that goes out to the world. Is there any country except for India where there is unity in diversity, not just for religions that are born out of India, but religions from across the globe?
Megha, good evening. You're absolutely right. And if you look at the 1971 war, two of the most important architects of that victory was one Lieutenant General J.F.R. Jacob and Field Marshal Sam Manekshaw. One was a Jew, one was a Zoroastrian. And that was an incredible example of how India is. Look, India is actually like an oasis of the world, where it's a melting pot where all cultures for since eternity have assimilated to give shape to a syncretic culture. The world knows it. The only thing is that we have never been assertive about the beauty of our own ethos, the beauty of Sanatan Dharma, the beauty of its all-encompassing culture. And since because we were not assertive, it became a convenient point for the West and the rest to, put fingers at us and to project that nothing is worse in India, in the world, than how the Indians live and how the Indian culture is. See, the West has always been, especially since 1945, the West has always been extremely uncomfortable with any country getting connected with its cultural ethos, because then it becomes very difficult for them, for a country which is deeply entrenched in its ethos, culture, heritage, philosophy, tradition, it becomes very difficult for them to manipulate such countries. And therefore, in the name of globalization, they have always tried to project that unless you give up all your traditions and culture, you cannot modernize. What the Prime Minister of India has done in the last 9 years, or rather what India has achieved in the last 9 years under Prime Minister Modi, or almost 10 years, is that it has shown that Vikas and Virasat can go hand in hand. So as we are, rediscovering our ethos, the young generations getting connected to it, we have shown two things, Megha. Number one, the temple is being built after 11 crore toilets were built. The temple is being built after almost 99.99% of Indians have an access to banking was given. The temple is being built after, taking care of the COVID and ensuring 200 crore plus vaccines are given free of cost. So temple is not happening at the cost of development. Rather, the development and the cultural connect are going hand in hand, and our cultural connect eventually would project to the world that you can give rise to a concept of a new economic philosophy which need not be dependent on war, okay, which need not be dependent on war economy, which need not be dependent on raising prices by sanctioning certain major suppliers. So the whole concept of Western economy, I am not trying to be very critical of the West, but the whole concept of controlling, having stranglehold on the drug market, pharma market, on the energy market, on defense market, and then using geopolitical tools to ensure that their primacy remains forever. That is something being challenged today by the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, by the concept of Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, Sarve Santa Niramaya. That is the concept.
Okay.
That is
Yeah.
the whole concept of Antodaya, taking care of the last person. So I believe, Megha, Ayodhya will be a congregation point for Global South, because this will epitomize the right of the deprived countries of the world. And India is becoming far more assertive, which is why the West, which wanted the status quo to contend, is very, very uncomfortable. Back to you, Megha.
Absolutely. Ambassador Mukherjee, you are amongst the lucky few who get to be part of the Pran Pratistha ceremony. We are also getting to know as per news reports that there are hundreds of these devotees who are bound by the religion of Hinduism because of spirituality, because of the fact that they want to find their inner self, meditation, yoga. And these individuals who have traveled far and wide from Germany, from several other parts of Europe, from New York, from Australia, they are all at this point of time are congregating in Ayodhya, in India. And they are also going to be a strong part of this mega ceremony that takes place in 2 days. So the very ethos that Sanatan Dharma and Hindu religion spread or make people aware of is in contrast to the kind of quote-unquote Hindutva narrative that is built across the globe, and some of these headlines from Reuters and Al Jazeera and so on and so forth also kind of propagated. But the truth, the reality of the situation is that irrespective of the kind of spin they want to give to India, to Hinduism, the actuality of things, when we take a look at a strong community of Hindus living in America, other parts of the world, are the most successful, are the most harmonious, are the most friendly friendly community to be living with, to be interacting with, to be sharing their society with. So isn't this then going to be the natural progression for these kind of narratives to be completely destroyed as the world comes together and understands what Hinduism is, what Hindutva is?
I'd like to say...
Sorry,
Yeah.
Ambassador Mukherjee, I'll come back to you, Professor.
Sorry.
I not at all. I just wanted to respond by saying that for me, Hinduism and Hindutva is a dialectical relationship. Hindutva for me is discovering my roots as a Hindu, understanding my culture and my religion, rediscovering my identity which had been crushed under centuries of colonial rule, and strengthening India's syncretic culture through, as rightly pointed out by Pathikrit, the combination of Vikas and Virasat, because never was Vikas ever sacrificed for Virasat. Never. So under those circumstances, for me, this ceremony does not negate India's secularism. It strengthens it, because for the first time, India's dominant religion, Hinduism, and those who follow it, Hindus, have rediscovered the confidence of saying proudly, which I never could when I was a child, Megha, that I am a practicing Hindu and I am proud of being a Hindu. Now, if somebody would please tell me from the West, is there anything wrong in what I have said? Just like others are welcome to say that they are proud Christians or Sikhs or Muslims, and they are proud to practice their religion. So I, as a Hindu, after so many years of independence, now I have the confidence to say this on national television. It means that as a nation, we've come a long way. And those who are saying that it marks hardening fault lines, etc. in India. Not at all. It means that finally India is coming to terms with its fault lines, is finding ways and means to overcome those fault lines, and is trying to move on, leaving its history behind but not forgetting its history. So that is what I wanted to say to
Okay.
your question.
Okay. Professor Nalapathy, again, what Patikrit also mentioned and Ambassador Mukherjee, that, the very ethos of Hinduism that has been carried forward by the government as well in terms of governance, in the times of ideology it follows. Vasudev Kutumbakam, when we talk about Vishwaguru, when we talk about how at the time of distress that the world was facing and countries like UK and US were shying away from distributing medical supplies and vaccines to the world. It was India that came to the rescue of these smaller developing nations who were falling short of these vaccines, these medical supplies. And this is one small example of Vasudev Kutumbakam. And the fact that the world is taking note of it and India leading by example is again another of these instances where Hinduism and Sanatan Dharma have been the underlining factors of what good governance is, and Lord Ram and Ramayana also being any strong examples of it.
Megha, you're perfectly right. And may I say that is why, for example, the Ramayana is so popular in so many countries that have accessed the Ramayana. You see Indonesia, you see Thailand, you see Cambodia, you see so many countries across the world. And wherever the Ramayana has been taught, people love it. For the simple reason, it's an example of, as you correctly said, it's an example of righteous conduct. It's an example of devotion to duty. It's an example of standing by truth and in the face of adversity. It's a marvelous example for all humanity to emulate. And that's why it's a very wonderful story. Now, the Ramayana, frankly, I mean, I'm not too concerned about the fact that you have some people who are critics of it, for a simple reason that, as the ambassador very correctly said, they cannot forgive the fact that you have, for example, Mahatma Gandhi, Sardar Patel, and so many others, and they basically fought to have a freedom struggle and to liberate India from the British. And India being liberated started the process of colonialism, basically disappearing in a lot of places. So I think that is possibly behind that, behind the willful. It is not ignorance. They know what Sanatana Dharma is all about. Sanatana Dharma is that every path to divinity is equally valid and every path should be given due respect. If that is not secularism, what is?
Yeah.
It is absolutely so. Until now, the problem is in our country after 1947, for some reason or the other, secularism was basically defined that any self-expression of the Hindu community would be, quote unquote, a danger to the idea of India. The idea of India is no different from the idea of Bharat. And Bharat is a civilizational construct. It goes back thousands and thousands of years. And everybody who is in Bharat has a right to this. I would like to point out again, now you have some very nasty comments appearing in German television and German media. Well, you have the Christian Social Union, you have the Christian Democratic Party, all that there. Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party is the Bharatiya Janata Party. It's not the Hindu or Janata Party. It's the Bharatiya Janata Party. But these people, they don't seem to understand. Then they believe that what they can respect, their own cultures, and rightfully so. I mean, the Christian faith is a wonderful faith, frankly. And if you've gone to a mass, for example, in the cathedral, you will understand that. What they can respect, what they can revere, should not be done by people in India who are Hindus. As the ambassador said, Hindus somehow regarded as a lesser form of life, who should not revere what is precious, who should not revere their own history, their own culture. And what we are seeing in Ayodhya, where we are going to witness that that, within 48 hours, is that we are breaking out of that mold.
Okay.
And we
Yeah.
are telling the world it's okay to respect yourselves because we respect all of you. And respecting all of you means respecting 1/6 of the global population of the world, which is the population of India.
Okay. So, Pathik, quickly coming to you, and very important points that were made by Professor Nalapat, that there is, perhaps in India itself, where are these forces that came forth up until a few years ago, since the start of our independence, talking about how secularism was equated to not showcasing your religion, especially Hinduism, in public, and therefore the spread of Hindu phobia we talk about in India, and then it ended up spreading across the globe as well with the kind of narrative that has been built. And is India and is Hinduism finally being respected, taken notice of, and acknowledged by the world as a religion, but also as a way of life for anybody and everybody from all faiths across all religions to practice?
Megha, from spiritual perspective, for several decades now, even before independence, millions of foreigners from West used to come to Kashi for mental peace, because the material wealth could not give them what Kashi could give them. So they always knew that spiritually, Indian ethos and culture, Sanatana Dharma, is far more richer than what generally is practiced in West. Secondly, I think you cannot have development sans cultural ethos guiding you. Otherwise, you end up being a wokist driven society, and wokism today is destroying the West, where you have people with enormous amount of wealth eventually resorting to violence, committing suicides. Why would somebody in a rich country like United States at the age of 25 take a gun, go to a nursery school and indiscriminately kill 20, 30 odd children? What is that they are lacking? The family culture system has been destroyed, the traditions have been destroyed, civilizational connect has been destroyed, and you have been reduced to an individual entity who can then be manipulated by different kinds of ideologies and, of course, corporate branding culture. So that is where I think Sanatana Dharma is something fundamentally different, because you are taught to remain calm against all odds. And if I have to speak by what Sadhguru has always mentioned, Rama's life has been one tragedy after another, and against all odds. In spite of all the adversities in his life, he remained calm. He was always patient. He never lost hope. He never got frustrated. He had a smiling face, and he dealt everything with grace and honor. So Maryada of Ram and Niti of Krishna is what is today's requirement in a globalized world. You have to embed globalization with culture, and that is what Prime Minister has always mentioned. My last point, temple economy. Look at how in Ayodhya last year in 2022, 7.3 crore people visited. Kashi Vishwanath's entire economy has been transformed, and you don't need a conflict for that. Ram Mandir in Ayodhya is expected to have a minimum of 10 crore visitors in the next few years annually. 50 major resorts and hotels are coming up. You don't need to trigger conflicts for the sake of earning money. Temple economy is a great, example, and not just temple. If you look at the larger aspect of what India is trying to do in terms of creating micro enterprises through mudra, you can be of different religions, but culturally you can remain, connected to your own land. Indonesia is a great example of a Muslim majority country deeply connected to Ramayana and Mahabharata. So I think Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and peace is important. Today's world requires an era of no war, and an era where war is the last resort. Krishna and Rama both used war as the last resort and not the first resort. The philosophy of Rama and Krishna is something that the world needs today in terms of creating a better world.
Absolutely. Those are all important points that you mentioned and make our debate more insightful and enriching. And thank you all for joining us on the telecast.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.